It's everywhere. Look at how it's playing out on the ground in Republican politics everywhere right now. This weekend in Virginia, Republicans will meet to nominate their candidates for statewide office this year. It's Virginia and New Jersey that are holding big statewide elections in this off year. And for the Virginia elections, we've been covering the irony, the sort of sad poetry in the fact that Republicans in Virginia also want to follow the Trump fantasy about massive election fraud. And they want to pass all sorts of laws to make voting more difficult because of the Trump election fraud fantasy. But the changes that they are insisting on in Virginia, that they're trying to get passed in Virginia, have made it so difficult and so annoying to vote, even in their own nominating contest this weekend, that Virginia Republicans are already exempting themselves from the restrictive voting rules they want the whole state to have to follow. They find them to be too much of a pain. Really way too awkward, way too difficult, and so they are not holding themselves to those rules. But those rules should be put into effect for the state of Virginia. Even beyond that, though, one of the candidates who's in the running to become the Republican nominee for governor in Virginia is a candidate, a Republican state senator who calls herself Trump in heels. That's how she's campaigning. And in advance of this weekend's vote, which is the Republican Party of Virginia counting its own members' votes to nominate their candidates, in advance of this weekend's vote, she has sent out a fundraising email to her supporters that says, in all capital letters, "Do not trust the party to deliver accurate results. Who should you go to for the proper results? Me. Me and my campaign." Think about that for a second. So this is the Republican Party holding its own election. But the message from the Trumpiest of all the Trumpy candidates is, do not trust the results of that election. Even though it's being held by the Republican Party, do not trust the results of that election. Just come to me. I will tell you whether I won or not. And I'm the only one you can trust. It is, as ever, Republicans using claims of voter fraud to try to get themselves an advantage over Democrats in elections. That is something we have been living through our whole lives. It's something I've been reporting on every year for my entire career in the news. This is part of what we're seeing. But we are also seeing something new that I've never reported on before, and that I don't think any of us have ever lived through, at least not in this country. And that is what is new about the Republican Party and its politics right now. It isn't just, don't trust the other side. Let's make voting harder for their voters. What they're saying now is don't trust voting. Voting itself, elections themselves, even when conducted by and for Republicans, voting itself, elections themselves are inherently untrustworthy. And we should not look to them to decide political outcomes. Just ask me if I won and I'll tell you if I won. And then you'll know if I won. And that's the only thing you should trust. That's the Republican Party's message to America in 2021. That's the message from the 2020 presidential election. And that is what Trumpy candidates in the Republican Party, now running for office in states like Virginia, are telling voters. Go ahead and feel free to vote, but the election result will be declared by me, who will declare myself the winner of the election. And I'm the only one who you should listen to about that. That's not running against the Democrats. That's running against democracy. And this fantasy of election fraud in the 2020 presidential election is what is driving all of that. And it has absolutely paved the road we are now on to what is turning into a real voting rights emergency in states across the country. Tonight, as I mentioned, in Texas, they are moving their draconian anti-voting rights bill in Texas. Today in Florida, the Republican governor there did sign that state's new bill. It is more draconian than what they passed in Georgia. The Florida bill limits voter registration. It limits voting by drop boxes. It limits voting by mail. It limits voting in person. And as much as Florida Republicans have been sort of laughing through the charade that this is all about the integrity, about the integrity of the vote, about improving Florida elections, when it came time for Governor Ron DeSantis to actually sign it, he literally went to an event hosted by something called Club 45 USA, which the Palm Beach Post describes as a President Trump fan club. He went to a President Trump fan club event. He excluded local press from the signing. He instead signed it live on TV in the middle of an interview on Fox and Friends. which is, sure, exactly the way you do it if you were trying to reassure everybody about the nonpartisan, good government, technocratic, small d democratic intentions behind what you were doing, right? Have the votes in a presidential election recounted by the lady from itsmellsfunny.com. And have that whole audit run by the Hugo Chavez conspiracy theory guy who says the Chinese planned it in 1963. Disavow and cut loose the car crash lawyers you had lose dozens of legal cases for you that actually tested these theories when you lost them all. But then expect, demand, and get your party to purge anyone who refuses to go along with the scam. Seems legit, right? Seems like a party that's ready to govern. Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.